Bill Carroll again, and we're on the second part of our building a tiny house, and this is actually part of it too. This is not the glamorous part. This is where we go and we find used lumber from whatever sources you can, and sometimes there's a little extra work involved. On this particular place, some of the boards have nails out, some don't. So this stack right here, for example, these are all nice straight 2x4s. Most of them are between 8 and 10 feet, but you can see they've been nailed together like so, and that's what they call a California corner. So we'll go and we'll pull this apart and back the nails. On this particular pile, it's the only one with nails in it. It'll take me about an hour maybe to clean that up. Over here, you can see this long board here. That board's really good, except on the very end, you can see that there's a split right there, which the lumberyard can't sell that unless they cut it up and sell it as an 8-footer. But I need a beam right now for the bathroom walls. So I'm buying this board, this 2x8, and a couple of these other 2x8s. And these are all for headers. It's old wood, but it's actually sometimes even better than new wood. And in the back here, you know, there's a stack of beams that somebody built posts for concrete, and they're 6x6s nailed together, and there's one 2x12 that's nailed together. It'll take me, once again, quite a bit of time to pull those apart, but the 2x12s are 14 feet long. A 2x12 in the lumberyard, 14 feet long, is going to cost you upwards of $12, $13. I'm getting both of these for $5, so it's worth the time just to pull the nails. But this is part of doing this affordably. Fortunately, I have my wife with me, and she's helping me, and we're making a trip out of it. Well, that's the fun part, supposedly, of doing this, is that during these excursions to find lumber, you can go on a little dinner date. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm making like a homemade hurricane clip. I basically took the crookedest 1x4s I had over there. You can even see how crooked it is here, but they work good for something like this. And what this is this will help attach a lower board here to an upper board. And what this is this is called a 1/2-inch crown stapler. I've had it for over 20 years. This old gun is made by Fast. You could probably buy it at a pawn shop for less than $100 because nobody really uses them because they're really heavy. But they'll save you a lot of nails, and the staples are really cheap, and they're appropriate in something like this. So part of the reason that I'm using this hurricane, well, it's not a hurricane, but this little corner piece, is to support this board. If you look right here, let's set this down. I have to try to support this board here. If I just leave this, then what will happen is as you walk, the boards will rub up against each other, and they will cause your floor to squeak. Now I'll explain in just a few minutes what this lower board is and the upper board, but let me show you how the homemade hurricane clip works. And basically, one board, it's a 1x4 cut in half, but not equally. This half is a little wider, so I'd have equal amount of, or close to equal amount of nailing. So this board goes right here. Then you just take your staple gun, 1/2-inch stapler. I'm going to put these back on. So now that will prevent that from squeaking, but it also give it something to hold on to. It doesn't need much, because all these boards are going to do are support those pieces of plywood. And I'll explain those in just a second. Okay. Okay, also since the last time, I may have mentioned that before I wasn't going to use what you call joist hangers, which are basically these. This is the cheapest joist hanger you can buy. Basically, you can get this for about 76 cents. And you use this with this little short nail. It's a specialized nail. If you notice, it's the same thickness as a full clip nail. You can see it's just about, maybe even a little thicker, but it's about half the length, and it's galvanized, so it won't rust later. A lot of times when you go into Home Depot or Lowe's, they don't even know what this is. It took me a while to find it, and if you go to one of those, if you find the joist hangers, then you'll usually find these somewhere close by. Okay, so now also, part of the reason I did that was when I was nailing these floor joists in, when I nailed this first set in, I was able to shoot directly through this LVL, which gave me a good nail coming through on the other side. But when I put the next board on, when I was trying to shoot my nail gun this way, the angle took away part of the length of the nail as it penetrated. So I had less nail going in here, and I just didn't like it. It'll make any building inspector happier too if you use these, or even better yet, the actual hangers. But these will actually help the board from moving up and down and from squeaking. Now, I also purchased a palm nailer, and I just set that down. Here. This is called a palm nailer. This one is made by Bostitch Stanley, and if you can't afford a stapler, or you can't afford a big nail gun like mine, then this palm nailer works really great. And these nails, they just go in there. There's a magnetic thing in there. You want to be careful, because when you have air pressure on here, if you're not careful, see, the way this works, as soon as it has a little back pressure, it starts trying to shoot that nail. So if you're not careful, if you try to put this in like this, you could very easily shoot that right into your finger. So you just want to hold it sideways and carefully set it in there. And this is how these work. It's also very important that you wear ear protection. And when you're nailing these, it starts nailing as soon as you touch it to the wood or to the metal. So as soon as you get it in that hole and press, it's going to start nailing the nail through the hole. If you miss a little and get it on this, it's going to ricochet. So you've got to be very careful, even with a little gun like this. These are about $35. Like I said, if you can't afford a nail gun, you can use this on even long nails. I can show you later how to do that. But this right here is a good way if you're building a deck or any kind of flooring or roofing and you really want to tighten everything up. Joist hangers, Tico nails is what we called them back in the day, and a palm nailer. So let me show you how this works. I wear this because every time I take this off and on, that air release also hurts my ears. So okay, so now it's up to you whether you want to fill every hole. I typically do, but if I have a board that's kind of brittle and there's a nail hole down right close to the edge, I won't do it. But this right here will keep things from pulling apart, and it will certainly help it from going up and down. Okay, what I'm doing now is I'm prepping these boards to go under the house. And this is something that you don't have to do. Typically when you build a house, you just build your top floor, all your floor joists, and you put the flooring on and you're done. But one of the cheapest ways to do insulation is blow-in insulation. That's typically what they do in a ceiling. Sometimes in older houses, they'll retrofit the house by an old house. They'll drill a hole in the wall and they'll pour it, shoot it in the top of the wall, go down through the wall cavity and come out the bottom. Well, I'm going to put that stuff in the bottom of this house. And the only way to do that is to seal the bottom. So I'm going to do this like you would do basically how you build an airplane. It's called like a shear skin, where you have plywood on the bottom, plywood on the top, and once it's glued and nailed, it'll take away a lot of the flex. It'll also keep the bottom free from critters and bugs and spiders and cold air. So I bought all these for $6. I bought gallons of paint. It took me 2 gallons to paint both sides of this. So the bottom will be painted and the top. So any water or anything that comes through the floor, it won't rot this wood out. I'll put little holes in there so it'll drill out. So this is the first board that I'm going to do. And what I did, if you look over there, that's your regular floor joist. But on this side, I didn't do these yet because I wanted to put these, what they call stiff backs in, which is a 2x4 with a 4x4 on the bottom. I mean a 2x4 nailed like this, and it more than doubles the strength of 2 2x4s. So these are put every 4 feet, and these boards were offset this way because the tires of the trailer are going to go right here, and they come up inside the house about 4 inches. So that's why this third board will be offset. So that, and that's why this one is here. I'll show you later when I get everything nailed up. So what I'm going to do now is I'm gluing this stretch skin, and we're going to nail it up, and I'm going to show you how to do it if you're all by yourself using what I call little helpers. When I did these stiff backs, I did them basically with the 3.5 inch side down, because that way it's easier to nail when you're laying on the ground, and it's easier to get the glue in also. This is the hardest part.
I'm filming.
Okay, so you can see we just took these little boards, wedged them up under all 4 corners. Okay, so now we have our first bottom board in. It's nailed on the top side with oil-based paint that I bought for $5 a gallon. Basically clearance paint. Doesn't matter how it looks or what brand it is, it just needs to cover that. Because if you've ever seen an old mobile home, RV, anything that had wood on the bottom, invariably there's leaks. And usually they have some kind of netting to hold the insulation up. It never works. So this was the cheapest stuff I could find, and I believe it'll also keep the house a lot warmer. Now, the reason I put this board in right here, I changed a few things because I made the bathroom bigger. This bathroom is going to have a full-size bathtub right in this corner. Right here is going to be a full-size toilet, and then right here will be a sink. This will be the kitchen. So in order to hold these walls that are going to be right here, I built a triple beam, 2 LVLs and 1 2x8, all glued and screwed together with hangers, joist hangers on both ends. And part of the reason I did this so strong was because right at this corner there's going to be a kitchen counter here and a little galleyway there, But at that point, it will go up, and later you'll see it'll hold a beam, and that beam is going to go from there to the front of the house. And that point is what they call a point load. So that's why this has to be so strong. Now later when the house is set up, and either on a permanent foundation or on the trailer, I'll have support really close to this triple beam right here, and that will actually carry that point load. And that's it. Hi, this is Bill Carroll again, and I'm just about at the point to wrap up this floor, and this would be the end of our second video. We'll be putting the insulation in and put in the subfloor, which is just right directly behind me. You can see I've recently painted it, and it's going to go on next, but that's going to come on another day. I've just worn myself out for today. But I'm going to show you what I've done, and then we'll wrap up this video and be ready for the next one. So I'm going to spin the camera around and show you what we're trying to do. Okay, so where we're out on the floor is basically the entire bottom has been covered, except I've left an access hole here for the plumbing into the tub. But all the underfloor, I don't know what to call it, the part of the bottom that's going to hold up the insulation and seal the entire floor is done. I went in and basically clipped everything. I even put what these are called, I call them hurricane clips. Some people call them truss clips. And basically put hangers on everything. And then tied these boards together. This board down here, in carpentry terms, would be called like a stiff back. A 2x4 flat with one on top. And then just one nail in there to keep it from squeaking. This is where the bathroom wall is going to go, this gray 2x6. And it ties into that tripler, and I think I've shown you that. But what I'm going to show you now is the electrical that I've done. My dad was a master electrician, but that doesn't really translate by osmosis. But I've learned a lot over the years, and seen guys do their own electrical, and this is what I'm doing myself. So basically this is the kitchen area, this little area here. And so in this spot here, this is where, this is going to be the kitchen backsplash. So I put a board in here, nailed right here, just to keep this further away, because if you nail anything in here, you take a chance of hitting that wire. So in as few spots as possible have I nailed anything, unless it was absolutely necessary, to the outside ledge. So only where it's going to come up through the wall. Here you can see that there's one for the fridge, which would be here. There's one for the kitchen. And then there's another wire that goes over to the other side. So that'll be on the other side of the kitchen counter. So there'll be two outlets on the kitchen. These all go back toward where the breaker's going to be. That's where that mess is right there. And so I was careful to make sure that all the wires were stapled. They have to be stapled, you know, within just every couple of feet, and you don't want them laying down on the floor if possible, because if someone has to cut a hole in the floor later, you don't want them cutting any of your electrical wires. So this one, the reason it looks a little different is you can see this is deeper right here, and this one is shallow because this took me 2 days, this area here, because this goes over the wheels of the trailer. So it had to be higher, as you can see. So this, if you can tell, the depth of field is different from there. So anyway, this is how all the electrical is run. Here's your front outlets. Well, I try to label everything so I know exactly how to wire it later. So all these have been spaced out. There's staples underneath, you know, to hang it and keep it up off the floor. This one is 14-2 wire, which is just for the light switch and for the lights. And this will be on a 15 amp breaker. These yellow wires are 12 gauge, and they'll be on 20 amp breakers. That's kind of the new thing. Everybody's going to 12, but you have to use a 20 amp breaker with that. So this one home run is what they call it, goes back, And you can see any place where it potentially could pinch, I've left slack and then tied it off with staples. This one little wire laying here, which I will tuck up later, that's for DC power. There'll be a number of those in the house before I cover it up, and because they'll be like the little cigarette lighters outlets, you know, really close to this electrical outlet, not in the same spot, but because we want to be able to run some lights and have some outlets that are just DC. So you could potentially be off grid with propane for your hot water heater and your stove and DC lighting. So here's the breaker box. This is where the wires come in. Once again, any place you have to, penetrate a hole or penetrate a board, you want to be far enough down where no nails can hit this. You know, I drilled these after the board was nailed together, so a decking screw or nail won't go through there. But all these are labeled, so we know exactly what each one is. There'll be a wall right here, and I'll take this wall and I won't put it directly on here, I'll shift it over. That way these wires can come inside the wall and come up to for the bathroom light. So we are basically ready for flooring. Insulation first and then flooring. I have an idea how to do the insulation, and that'll be part of the next video. But this is the insulation I bought. Bought this at, this one came from Lowe's. It was $10 a bag. It should cover 65 feet, which basically would be most of that first bay. And you have to buy like 20 bags and they'll give you a machine to blow it in. Well, we didn't buy 20 bags, so what I'm going to do, this is about as redneck as you can get. I took my paint stir thing off my drill, and I tied some baling wire on here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to dump it in my trash can, and then I'm going to do that number right there to break it up real good. And when I get it real nice and loose, I'm just going to dump it in this first bay. I would do that tonight, but I've been out here all day and I'm tired. So tonight I'll take these boards. These have been painted twice to pretty much weatherproof them. And I'm going to lay them on top. We've had massive rain the last 2 weeks. That's why we haven't done much on the tiny house. But, you know, this is the slowest part, and I think the hardest part, just getting the floor done right. But, you know, getting everything prepped so your electrical's done. We'll do the plumbing. We'll rough that in before we put the floor down, and I'll show you that as well. But we're pretty much ready for our next video and ready to put the floor down. So hopefully. Hi, this is Bill Carroll again, and back with you on how to build a tiny house cheap and all by yourself. So I just met with a plumber this morning, and he's going to help me plumb in my bathroom. There's certain things I'm not really qualified to do, so I'm going to let a professional do that. He's going to probably do that on Monday or Tuesday, and it's going to be around $750. So believe it or not, I had to work out a payment plan, so because that's a big chunk of my budget. But if you're going to do the bathroom before you finish the floor, that's just part of it. But today, I'm just hours away from putting the first flooring down and putting the insulation in, and was going to put that on the next video, but I believe I'm going to go ahead and include it in this one, because what I did was, part of the whole idea about this house is that I want to be able to run everything on DC power if possible, so off-grid. I've collected a lot of solar panels, these over here, in the oil field. When those things fall over and break, the glass, they don't want that out there. They need something that's working all the time they can count on, but they should work for what I've done. I've checked quite a few of them, and they're still putting out enough voltage to charge a battery. So that being the case, I was looking for an inexpensive wire to run DC power outlets on and some DC lights. So when you walk in your front door, you flip a switch, and instead of electricity through a generator or, you know, 110 volts is coming directly from a battery. So to do that, I just found some cheapest wire I could find, and everything was 40-50 bucks. Last night though, I found some rolls of green electrical cord, and that's what this is right here, this little green wire. Basically it's what you buy at Christmas time, so it kind of, I don't know, matches your grass or whatever, you know, or blends in somehow. But during the rest of the year they must not sell much, because these rolls were $5 a piece for 40 feet. And it's a good grade of wire. It'll be plenty good, you can see, for running battery power. And there's three wires in there. So one can be used for an outlet, while the other one can be used for a light, and the third can be used for a ground. So before I put the floor on, I wanted to go ahead, even if I never hooked that up myself, I wanted to go ahead and get it in the floor. So that's what I did. And you can see right here, basically, I'm running it very close to the electrical, which I may never hook up, but it's going to be here at least. And I've used just some baling wire with a little tape around it to protect it. You might can see that in there. And so I'll have an outlet for the DC very close to the outlet for the electrical. So that's why I've not quite finished the floor yet, and I've just decided not to stress out and get too much of a rush over doing this, because I want to do it right the first time. But that's basically what I've done. You can see that, let's see if I can turn the camera around. I've run, you know, wires here for a light. Here's the actual AC lighting. And so that's basically what's taken up a lot of the time, along with the fender well, which I talked about previously. But today I've just about got all of that finished, and I'm within an hour of putting in insulation and putting down the first floor. And I'll probably leave a few sheets for the plumber so he can have access. So we'll see you. Okay, well, I told you I'd show you how I was going to do this insulation, and I'll show you that I've already done a little bit. Already got started to see if it would work. Here's my little redneck mixer. The little wire on the end sticking out didn't work. It just wrapped back around, so I put a stick in there, and it actually seems to be working. You know, they'll give you one of these tools to do this if you buy 20 bags. Well, we didn't buy 20 bags, so I'm going to try to film this and show you at the same time how it works. But all I'm doing is taking this bag right here and dumping it into a trash bag like so. I mean a trash can. And then put my mask back on, take our little homemade mixing tool, and voila. Actually mixes it up pretty good. I don't know if you can see it or not, but when you get down to the bottom, make sure you don't leave any chunks, because then you're just wasting insulation. And then we'll take this and just dump it in. And then just kind of spread that out. I'm probably going to use I'm probably going to go at least 8 inches deep here. We'll see what my coverage is for these 5 bags. But make sure you get even the cheapest mask, because you don't want to be breathing that stuff. It's old ground up newspaper. Very environmentally friendly, but more than anything, it's cheap insulation. So shortly we'll finish the floor, and then we'll start putting down our boards. Hi, okay. Hello again. Bill Carroll here, and started putting the insulation in and wanted to kind of give you an update how that was looking. You can see that I've been blowing it in and or dropping it in from the trash can, putting it up a little tighter here up against the wall, because that even though this area here will not get cold, this area here right up against the rim joist could. So you want to make sure that you got insulation here. I'll probably put some blocking here of some sort Now, one area here that I'm working on is over the fender wells. And this is an area here that is shallow. So this is what I'm using. It's like a bubble wrap, and it's foil backed on two sides. And laying it like this gives you nearly R9 just by itself. Then we'll put this insulation over the top of it. I'm using contact cement to basically to adhere it to the side.